Okay, I'm gonna test my mic. Test. And they should be able to hear you, but let's do a mic check real quick on your end.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, test 1, 2. That should be pretty close. How you guys doing? Let me get the screen going. All right, I think we're pretty good. Welcome to the weekly Whale Watch. Your dude Runner. Doing our weekly stream. We do it every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We hang out here for about an hour on the live YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and then we go into the Rainbow Trends Discord, and then we do open mics. Stream is going to be a little bit different today. We have a guest today. CryptoZen is with us, and we're going to be doing a trader interview, basically handing the reins over to him and letting him show how he does all his trading. I'm going to turn the music off. How he does all his trading and so forth, and it's going to be a really good one. But as always, the stream is not intended to be used as financial advice. It's for educational purposes only. Even then, if you were to mistake it for financial advice, this is clearly an art stream. But if you have any questions about the tools, why our candles are colored the way they are, or any of the specifics, check us out at rainbow-trends.com. If you want to try it out for a month, you can for $10. Cancel anytime. I'm very biased, obviously, but it's really nice to be able to do a stream today where I can hand it over to an independent trader who's been using my tools for a while and been doing really good with those. But with that being said, Zen, I'll hand it over to you to do a quick intro about yourself.
Great. Thanks, Runner, and appreciate you having me here. And appreciate you. Hopefully people can see how I use it. Use your tool, your amazing tool, and learn something today. Just a quick intro for myself. I'm CryptoZen. I've been trading stocks, options, and recently crypto in 2017, almost for the last 30 years. So I'm probably older than most folks in the crypto land. I started in 1996. I remember my first trade on E-Trade, and I got hooked. Right, I think E-Trade was just all the brokerage companies were starting back then, and I was hooked on the game. I love video games. I love strategy games, and I quickly learned that the stock market was a game of it itself. So I kind of got addicted to that whole gamesmanship and strategy, and just all sorts of data that you could use to leverage and gain an edge in your trading methodology. So I started in 96 and kept at it. Like most traders, I think. I started out reading fundamentals of companies, reading how charts and patterns would look. But, unlike most traders too, never had that much success, not crazy success in that sense, as far as making generational wealth through trading. But I learned a lot of things along the way. I learned that market makers exist and whales exist, and they move markets. As Runner always says, they hide in plain sight. They're everywhere, and they affect markets, and you have no idea unless you have proper experience and tools to help you. So over the years, I developed a knowledge about charting, of candlesticks, momentum, volume. So all these tools, as I was learning how to trade, helped me understand markets a lot better. And then I get into macro investing and macro knowledge, I guess I would take it, liquidity, global liquidity, money supply, debt cycles. And that was kind of the part that I was missing a few years ago. About 10 years ago, I got into that, started understanding, fiscal and monetary policy. So meanwhile, I also had a day job because as a full-time trader, I didn't have enough capital to do it. So I was building over the years, and you just keep at it. I still was interested in it until around 2017. That's when I discovered Bitcoin, and unfortunately, and crypto. And unfortunately, I like everybody else who got hooked on crypto, got into the peak in 2017, probably bought Bitcoin at the top. I don't know, it was probably like $12,000 back then, and quickly tanked. But was convinced that it was going to change the world. I was convinced through my knowledge of, fiscal monetary policy and the whole fiat system, the global financial crisis. I just had to stick with it and just DCA'd my way, bought it every month, bought it to dips, and kept at it while I still had my job. And then suddenly around 2020, everything changed, right? For me as a trader, all the culmination of everything I've ever learned about trading and investing and market cycles was when I discovered Bitcoin. Obviously, I've had, but I discovered Axie, right? And so Axie, if you guys don't know, was Axie Infinity was one of the first gaming tokens in crypto, and I was convinced in my heart of hearts that it was going to change the world. And I think part of that is just the conviction that you have and you kind of the way you look at the world and how it's going to change everything. It's going to disrupt attention, mostly, right? We Facebook games monetize your attention and they profit from it. I just assumed that like this was a way to decentralize that and give back. And so I was hooked and I was bought into that idea of Axie Infinity making gaming and owned gaming.
Here, let me switch the screen over to you so you can show the Axie charts.
Oh yeah, sure. If you can do it, let me show it. So, where did it go? I know it's here somewhere. Hang on a second. There we go. And I'll actually go to, I think, the weekly. Oh, that's huge. Let me see if I can do that. You guys can see this, right, Runner? I'm just running. I'm just condensing it. So
yeah, weeklies are going to be wild.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. So around 2021, around February, Axie Infinity was trading. I'll move this over. Around $1.60. And having some software background, the adoption of it was insane to me. It was around 30,000 users a week would be onboarded. And it was to me, and again, this is why I love crypto. There's so many asymmetric knowledge that if you know what you're doing, because it's not saturated with bots and or institutions. At that time, any software in the traditional world in TradFi that would have 30,000 users a week being onboarded would be worth the valuation would be astronomical. And so I saw Axie Infinity was like about $1.60. And so I was like, okay, no one is seeing this or no one understands the concept of Moore's Law. And so I bought a boatload of it at $1.60. And I continue. And one of the things I learned as a trader, as an investor, I think many do, is that, I grew up, in a middle-class family. And any sort of money would be either saved or would be pocketed. And as a trader, starting out as a trader, you're happy with the 5%, 10%, 20%, even 30% gain that you would have in a trade. But if I only held Amazon, right, at $12 back in 1998, right, if I only held Microsoft or Intel, and I traded all these names that I knew, but if I just held, I would have been far better off, right, than just trading it. And so I learned my lesson with Axie. I'm like, wait a minute, it's going to change the world. The paradigm has shifted. I went all in on Axie. It was one of the things also I learned as far as kind of my trading methodology, and I'd love to share with you guys, is that when I used to analyze, when I currently analyze opportunities and projects in crypto or even in traditional finance, there are three rules that I kind of at a high level look at the company. And I learned this from business. The best way to value a product is three very key attributes of that product. Is it the first product that's ever been made, i.e. Bitcoin, right? That's an example. Ethereum at the time. Is the product the best in its class, right? And that could be anything. It could be the best team, right? Nowadays in crypto, sometimes a team is way more important than the product itself, because a lot of developers, focus on features, but it's really leadership that could take a token from a million, market cap to 100 million, a billion or more, if you have a good team. So the best team, the best product is the second one, and the third one is the only one in its class, right? So, and again, Axie kind of fit these three things in my mind. It was the first as far as kind of Web3 gaming. It was the best in its class because 30,000 users a week. Yeah, I don't see any other application on board that. And is it the only? And it was at that point it was. So I was convinced that this was an amazing trade and an amazing investment. So I held on all the way up to, and mind you, I had to fend off all my friends to keep taking profit as traders. I rode it all the way up to 150. And that, as a trader, again, I don't think, Runner, I even told you, but I'm an immigrant to the US, right? My parents came here. And for me, this was the most amazing trade I've ever placed in my life. So, and it changed my life. It's the American dream. You come here and you do something like this. You work hard. Again, 30 years. At that point, I guess it was more like 20 years, 25 years of really focusing on this market, this industry, this kind of analysis. And one day that opportunity will come, and all that preparation led to this trade. I truly believe that. So, so that's my story. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm living the dream, and I'm talking to Runner, and his tool again is almost, I came across Rainbow Trends, I believe, through, again, my crypto friends in various discords, and I was looking at the success of some of the folks in our Discord. I don't know if I can name them, Runner, but
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so Stacks, Pepper, all of these folks, and my Web3 gaming connections and my trading connections led me to this tool. And when I first looked at it, it was like, oh my God, this is how I trade. This is all the tools and thinking that I came up with in my 25 years, all in one tool. And it was an amazing experience, because after that discovery, I think it was over a year ago, I started using Rainbow Trends, I think in November of 23. It's been a while.
Yeah, I remember it's been a while, because we would chat with DMs for a bit, and then you started like, hey dude, I'm killing it. And I was like, you need to talk. We need you on stream.
So I'll go back to I like to trade. So for me, just full disclosure, I have spot bags, of which I buy and hold, obviously, but then I also have a trading account, just to keep me off the streets and keep me busy and have fun at the same time. That quick, adrenaline rush and dopamine hit. Yeah. But obviously, everybody loves to win. So I trade mostly the big majors, and in the 15-minute time frames. I'm showing you how I trade and use Rainbow Trends every day. And I use it every day between Hyperliquid and Rainbow Trends. These are the two things that I use every day to trade. So can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, so just the other day, actually today, Runner, I traded Sol, because so I can go a quick overview. So
so before you show the trade, can you explain the tools that you're using here? Because most of these I recognize, but some of them I don't.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, the Rainbow Trends, this is the basic tool, right? This is the main tool. I don't know what you call it, Runner.
Main indicator.
The main indicator. I also use the Molly. Is it the Molly pivot tool? That you see these little vertical green red bands. The main indicator again outlines the pivots, and these pivots typically align with vector candles. again, for my technical trading, like where certain key support occurs and resistance occurs. So green typically means, and correct me if I'm wrong, runner. So I mean, I know the tool, but like if you want to elaborate on where I could get some more detail, but I typically use the green as support and the red pivots as resistance.
Yeah, and that's how they're designed. It's actually two algorithms. One is tuned for bottoms, and one of them's
Right.
tuned for tops. And the green, and they're about 80% accurate. So in general, the greens are typically supporting the reds, are typically, I'm sorry, opposites, and the reds are tops.
Right. So that's the first. That's the kind of the first thing that I see are like, where am I? So stepping back a little bit, when I trade, where am I in the cycle, like the macro cycle? And I truly believe we're in an overall bullish cycle. So higher chances that uh, uh, long trades will have a better success than short trades. Number two, where am I in the weekly cycle? So I don't know if you guys know, but there are certain weekly rhythms to the market. Uh, Sometimes there's a early Monday gap up or gap down, and it typically the markets reverse on Tuesdays and then on Thursdays. So
you sound
the
just
way
like Nexus. Nexus cares about the Monday auction.
oh yeah, Monday
Loves
is
it.
it's so critical. Typically, I don't trade Mondays because there's major reversals. But Tuesdays are reliable. That most of the time it goes opposite of Monday. So just kind of looking into where I am in the cycle. It's important as a trader to know where you are in the cycle of the yearly, the monthly, and the weekly. But today was kind of a reversal day, right? So we had a huge gap down, obviously, yesterday, and in continuation to today. So I was actually looking for these propulsion numbers, the 9 and 13, which is part of the Molly pivot tool. And so when I saw this and it actually hit the liquidations and the Molly pivot tool hit a green, which means kind of a buy, I sized in a little bit on Sol. And technically, this area has been, actually 120 was kind of where the major support was, but it fell through. So I was assuming that there was a bottoming process that's happening, considering it hit some liquidation. And also the Molly pivot has these liquidations, these yellow dots are liquidation areas. And so it was a pretty safe entry when we had this, 13 propulsion number and this Molly pivot. And so I think I bought it somewhere around 113, 112. And sure enough, if I wanted to day trade it, that would have been a nice scalp, right? But I'm going to hold on to it. But that's how I kind of enter it. I also use the split volume just to see how much buying and selling there is. Yellow is the selling volume and blue is buying volume. Obviously, there was a lot more selling yesterday. You see this nice big sell volume indicator. I also use the on balance volume mainly at the higher time frames. So if I go to what I discovered today on Bitcoin, if I go to the higher time frame Bitcoin, if you notice, on balance, the volume has been decreasing. The selling volume has been decreasing. So we're almost, we hit even yesterday until it tanked a little bit. But if you notice that, even though we had this huge wick, the on balance volume didn't change all that much in relation to what's happened, in the past few weeks, right? So price might be down a lot, but what's indicators that there's good support on with this tool. It's indicating that like there's not a lot of folks that are actually selling Bitcoin. So this was a nice kind of support area here in this liquidation level in the main tool to tell me like this is also kind of a nice bottoming process that's happening. And also the open interest also kind of is fairly low compared to others. And open interest, I use this down here as the last one, just to kind of gauge how many people are in this market, whether they're short or long.
Is that the default TradingView open interest tool?
I think so, yeah, because it has the little trading view symbol on it. I think it's just regular open interest by Leviathan, I believe. So that helps me gauge. I'm like, wait a minute, is it burning hot? You know, if your open interest is super high, I don't know if I could show you guys. This was at 9 billion, right? That's typically kind of on the upper range for Bitcoin as far as open interest, and we're like half that right now. So the way I use open interest is just how much are the whales going to liquidate people, right? And how many are participating. Typically, in my experience, when open interest is high is when whales start hunting and start liquidating, and so you're going to get a lot of volatility. And typically, volatility means when you exit a trade. When there's lower volatility and lower open interest is when you start to looking for entries. Also along, and coupled with that in confluence with price action, propulsion, again, and day of the week, day of the time of month it's in and whatnot. So that's how I typically trade. And so obviously if I enter here, if it goes lower, there's a support area here, but I'm looking for maybe an exit around here, around this 89K, in this trade. A nice swing trade, guys. I don't really do a lot of scalping or day trading. But that's how I would typically use it as a tool. So
that's cool. Do you typically chart Binance exclusively?
You mean like the
tickers that you have? You it's pulling up as Binance. Like, do you look at Coinbase or Kraken pairs?
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. No, typically I use Binance only because I think it has the highest volume. I've used Coinbase and Kraken. I didn't have as much, I guess, success in the trading volume is not as high as Binance.
True.
But yeah, no, I mean that's why I kind of prefer it. But what do you think?
I prefer Binance for USDT info, as well as when you're using like the liquidations engine. I prefer the perpetuals on Binance. But if I'm just trading like spot USD, I like the Coinbase data a lot. But the Binance data is usually a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was just curious. Some people do it certain ways, but no, it's good insight.
Yeah, Binance has got probably the most volume and most accurate, not accurate, but accuracy to activity of any token. To your point, right? But I haven't tried out the other one. But yeah, perps is that perp data on Binance is really, really good, in my opinion. That's why I use the USDT pairs for the most part.
That's cool.
Okay.
And do you typically look at 15-minute and H4? Is what the time cycles you normally look at?
To be fair, I use 15 minutes for entries, for optimized entries to see like where things are going. Oh, the other tool that I use that I don't see a lot of folks use is what do you call it? This is the runner bot, right?
Runner bot. Yeah.
Forgot.
We couldn't come up with a good. Right. It used to be called like the top bot, and then another year and a half later, I figured out how to do bottoms.
Right.
And we had to change the name.
Yeah. So typically, I use 15 minutes to kind of monitor. I'd say monitor and watch and watch for entries. Only because I think there's a lot more of these pivots that exist. But if let's say if the trade goes wrong and I need to size a little bit more into it, I go to the 4 hour to make sure I'm not going to get killed. So they're like, oh, okay, all right. So I could withstand a 78K wick down. I'm like, and that's where. And now if the 4 hour fails, then I'm out, right? But also for 4 hour, because again I swing trade. So if this pattern here doesn't hold, and tomorrow some news comes out, more tariffs or whatnot, and it wicks down here, I also have what do you call stank bids on Hyperliquid at 78K, just in case. But yeah, typically I use 15-minute and 4 hour, and then when I really need some hopium, I go to the weekly. on Bitcoin, right? I'm like, okay, we're still, holding the reverse head and shoulders. I think I shared it. I'm like, we're still good.
We're still above 3K. We're good.
Right, exactly. But yeah. But that's to your point. Yeah, I use all time frames, but 15-minute is my kind of uh, standard or default view of charts, because there's so many ways to again scalp or find levels where you can make some quick trades.
Do you mess with the settings at all on the tuning?
No, I they'll mess what's not, they'll fix what's not broken. Runner is my motto. I'm aligned to most of the tuning, so but I also do trade majors, so I don't do like really esoteric coins like I don't know some illiquid coin meme coins and whatnot. And also meme coins are crazy. I've never been successful, to be honest, full disclosure, trading meme coins. So I trade majors, because they have higher volumes, they have good liquidity, and so on. So I don't mess with customizations as much, and typically that hasn't affected my trading performance. Again, I think my win rate, I think I told you, Runner, was like 80%. I had an 80% win rate after
Jeez.
tool, which is insane.
So what were you before with like
Oh my
standard
god,
tool?
oh my god, I felt like I was flying blind. I think I was probably close to 50%,
Dang.
right? Or it was bad. It was
Yeah.
horrible. Like what and so like I think in this said, after I saw this, it's like putting glasses on, right? Like this is
Yes. That's a good way to
exactly.
put it.
I didn't, having the liquidity, I have to go to a different tool for that before having um just the um propulsion also helps confirm in Confluence, and also the runner bot telling me, hey, it's bottoming. You probably should enter, given the price action and volume. But yeah, but I also don't trade every day. That's the other thing too. As a trader, like I don't need to trade every day. If I make my number in a day, I'm done for the weekend. Take a break. I can relax. I don't have to like have one eye open at night.
Few can do
Um,
that.
so it's crazy. So, but yeah, I think also that adds to my percentage, because I don't trade if I don't need to, right? Especially when there's like the signals are off or nothing is really going into Confluence, right? Like I don't get my propulsions, I don't get my liquidations. It's kind of weird, right? So,
Yeah.
sometimes there's some days where it doesn't hit anything, it just waffles around, and so I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm just gonna touch grass, right?
Yeah,
So
that's where you'll see the transition because I typically hang out in the H4 and I want serious volatility, serious paint to
yes,
catch a
that's right.
wick. And then I'll
Right.
get boring for a while, and then you'll see Malifestro messing around with like 5 minute scalps, eating up the
Yeah,
chop, and I'm just like, dude. But
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
I wanted to go back to the 50% win rate. Then you like bumped it up to 80 because I try to explain to people like there's all different types of tools, there's packages, there's a lot of people that like promise a lot of stuff, and a lot of it's just like scam stuff. Most of my competition's like under 200 lines of code. This is literally over 10,000 lines, and there's nothing turnkey. If there was something that could literally make you a perfect trader who's never traded before, like overnight, you couldn't afford it. But the goal of this stuff is to like give you glasses, like you said, so you can actually
Yeah,
try to start swimming and surfing with these whales and like increase your win rates. And if you can increase your win rates 10, 20, 30%, like that should pay for itself. Like that's the goal. And if it's not, dude, cancel anytime. Tell me, shoot me a DM, you're mad. I take
yeah,
the feedback and I try to implement what I can.
yeah, and I think that's to your point. Like, there's a lot of tools out there, Runner, that are maybe one part of the equation to trading, right? Because if you know what you're doing, I know a lot of folks who use, different tools and techniques, multiple sites. Um, but what I find great about your tool is that all the tools that you can get are in one place, right? And also has all the insights. So, there's a tool, and the software or the people who make that tool expect you to kind of use it I would say use it in your own way. And then there's this tool, which is kind of a guidance, it's kind of guiding you, which is different, right? So it's not like, yeah, here you go, here's a tool, but here's a tool that tells you like, okay, it's green, that means it's bullish, or it's white, that means buy, and it's purple, it means sell. Like it actually gives you that consultative nudge, right? If you will, versus like in versus a tool that says, hey, here's the data, you make it what you want. So I think that's a big bonus, is that it kind of is a Sherpa that helps you trade, and helps you learn, like, why is this green, why is this red, and so that's what I also really like about this tool. It's almost like a co-trader with you. Does that make sense?
I mean that's because originally this like stuff was, I didn't even plan for it to ever become a public thing, and then people inadvertently started hounding me for it and started taking like Rainbow seriously with trading. And that was my biggest thing, was I wanted to code out my bad habits, because it was like everybody and their mom wanted to buy Bitcoin at like 100K, but like nobody wanted to hear a thing when it was back down at like 30K. And right. I had to break my own habits, because I was figuring out like there's whales manipulating this stuff. This is like the greatest video game in the world, because you're fighting against something that's super intelligent and extracting money from like everybody who's vulnerable. And I was like, okay, well, I need to figure out how to see them first off, and then secondly, like check my own emotions. Like that's how I do it visually. Like when I naturally see green, green candles, I don't see top, but if I see pink and purple candles, I get skittish and be like, okay, I need to stop my euphoria and start checking myself to start, making a decision whether to lock in profits or like move stop losses up. But especially on dips, nobody wants to buy the dip. And then the next day when it bounces, that's when everyone announces, hey, I just want to let you guys know I longed everything. It's a big joke exactly. Now, but it's literally like the Rainbow Trend Discord and like Pep's Discord, Degen Down stuff. They will wake the F up if we see these crazy like candles pushing into like the rev bands just bleeding out. And it's like, oh, this is where you can make a 30-40% spot trade on a scalp. Like, but you have to like be in tune with what these dudes are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. To your point, I learned this year or last year, BlackRock has this AI called Aladdin. There's videos on it, and it basically controls the market, right? It literally does. It's insane, right? So, and all they do is hunt liquidation levels, right? And if you know the liquidation levels, you generally have an idea of where they're going to go with the price, no matter what the news is, right? Even yesterday, I think there was this spiked up to 88,500 was a liquidation level, right? They did it intentionally and then just brought it down once they liquidated folks that were, short up here. So, and you could see it perfectly through here and through other tools. Like this is where, and and before I was like, oh, maybe this looks like a cup and handle. It's going to break out, right? And that was before I had all these tools and this knowledge. Like a lot of folks, would look at some of these patterns like, oh, it's going to break out. It's But if you knew there was a liquidation here, you'd be a little more cautious in going all in at 88.5, because you would have lost a ton of money.
Yeah.
If you bought into it, like, oh, it's going to break out. So, but yeah, there's a viewpoint like this provides a view into how whales behave and where they go versus like just guessing in the dark. Oh, this looks like a head and shoulders pattern. Maybe I'll just, short, and you're going to get screwed.
Someone in the chat asked, he wants to know if Zen is still bullish on Axie and if there's something in the pipeline. Matt the Vulture on YouTube.
No, I'm not bullish on Axie, unfortunately. Like the thing is with crypto, and if you've been in crypto long enough, I've been in it for almost 8-9 years, is that the narratives go through. It might come back, but there's always a narrative that overtakes and overshadows the last year's narrative. I'm bullish on its long-term prospects as a company, because I think they are one of the best, and they've survived this long. It's the Lindy effect, right? But I don't think that it's going to ever go back to $150 per coin, at least not in my lifetime. But it might. But my focus is now on, what are traditional institutions going to buy, and I think it's going to be actually, DeFi has been dead for a very long time, since 2020, which have made a lot of money on Yam and all these other DeFi vegetable coins and fruit coins.
Perishables.
But yeah, institutions like anything that makes money. And at this moment, I believe institutions are gobbling up CRV. Because it's on my list. Anything that Aave, these are money makers, right? In crypto, they're probably the only few protocols that make money, and I think that's where the big money is going to go. And maybe Axie, but like I think the first thing is like there's all these tools out there, these dexes that make crap ton of money, and the multiples are super low compared to like Coinbases of the world and JP Morgans of the world. So, but Axie, yeah, I'm not a big believer in Axie getting back to 150, maybe 10, maybe 20, but like not back to the old highs.
But let's go into that Zen guild.
Oh yeah. You want me to talk about it
for sure? So even though he's not super bullish on the chart, he's still got his bros in Axie that he loves.
Yeah. So
originally, I thought the Zen Guild was like a trading group, and I was like, "What is going on?"
That's a good question, Runner. Glad you brought it up. I forgot about that. So as a side gig, again, I think part of get into myself a little bit. Part of so I made all this money, right? But you get bored, right? And so one of the things that kept me busy was my guild. Back when Axie, I truly believe in Axie, so I bought not only the token, I bought all the NFT assets that were, creating yield for me and for my scholars, mostly in the Philippines. And I never sold them. I didn't trade them. I kind of like having the idea of these things as I would say as an alternative investment outside of the tokens. And so, I had a guild of almost 300 scholars at one point that I was managing.
Jeez.
It was a job, but it was fun because I got to see scholars buy homes from playing with my Axies, right? Buy medicine for their families. And one of the things, I learned, like what makes people happy isn't really money, obviously. It's contribution. And so it was nice for me to do what I wanted to do, not what a job told me to do, and help people, halfway across the world, in, just having a basic life. So that was really fulfilling for me, to see everyone kind of profit, and, we've all profited. And it was fun for me breeding Axies. And again, I love strategy games. It was great to like, what if I do this and do that? That was a fun aspect. But like, seeing people successful, seeing people, live their lives, playing a game, which is only in crypto, be successful. Obviously that euphoria and that, I guess, success had its end. But Axie, quickly shifted. They changed their framework and methodology and strategy around how Axie could still be play to earn. So I kept my assets, I kept my land. And so Axie now has, weekly contests, and there's a few folks that know how to play the game, Axie Homeland, and I've got a bunch of land that people use, and they play it, and they still make enough money to provide for their families. Not 300, I think I have about 10, but it keeps me busy, and it keeps me, again, off the streets, and it's a diversion from looking at charts all day.
That's so cool.
And trading. So
have you ever met any of them in real life or visited that area?
I haven't. I've seen photos of them because I would like give them bonuses. I'm like, yo, treat yourself to some, like, it's a place called Uni Wings. It's unlimited wings, it's called. And so I'm like, listen, you guys get a bonus. But you get, in order to get your bonus, you got to send me pics of yourself enjoying, the fruits of your labor. And yeah, I've seen pictures, but I haven't gone to the Philippines to meet any of them because they're all over the Philippines. But yeah, no, I've talked to them. I've seen photos of him, but I've never met him in real life, unfortunately.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and so that so the guild still exists, even though it's down to like a few, but either way, it's fun doing this stuff and helping people out.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Another guy asked if you could chart Telcoin.
Telcoin. Let's see. Is that TEL?
Mm-hmm. USDT.
Okay.
And he's followed by Playmaker, so this is definitely going to be DGen.
Yeah. Let's see where to go. There you go. What's the volume like? Let's see. It's got some strong volume. Okay, so this is the 4 hour. This is what you like to use. So, I mean, right now, it's in a bottoming process, right? You've got a couple of rainbows. It hits support down here at 0.004. Let's see, and there's also another, technique I use that that creates. It looks like it's at least it's in a bottoming process, because this is one hit. This is another hit to the bottom. So for me, what I would do is it needs to go above 0.005 for me to be a buyer, right? So, right now it's in a range. It could go anywhere, but it's forming a W pattern, which is good in a sense. But I wouldn't enter this trade until it breaks up above to 0.05, but I wouldn't enter there yet. It has to come back down to correct, right? It's called the break retest, right? It breaks through the current resistance, and if it's a bullish movement that's beginning, if it comes back down here and it gets that support, right? And so that's where I would enter if it starts bouncing off of that. But at the moment, I'm neutral on it. I wouldn't buy it. But if you think there's a long-term prospect, again, I don't know what it is, but if you followed me before, is it the first? Is it the best? Is it the only? So let me know what it is. But fundamentally, I would ask those questions. Chart-wise, I would wait for that breakup and then come down to test this support level. There's a support level here, right? It would need to come back up and hit that support for me to be bullish. Does that make sense? Yep. Runner, do you have anything else to add?
No, if you could check it on dailies too. He's wanting to see some high time frame.
Yeah. Let's see.
That's good. By the way, if you're tuned in, thank you. Please hit like, comment, subscribe. All that type of stuff really helps out, because we try to not monetize these streams, and that really wakes up the algos.
There you go.
That's a hell of a run.
Yeah. It definitely peaked up here. I don't know if it's going to hit there for a while, but yeah, it's definitely on a consolidation. Well, this looks like a critical level for it to break back up again. It might, you might want to buy here and then wait till it goes up there to 0.07 as a trade, right? If that happens, because that's key resistance up there. Hope that helps.
Yeah, it's good. It actually looks really clean on daily, to be honest. Yeah. Perfect rotations.
It also from a daily perspective, if it does go up here and it sells off, it's forming a head and shoulders pattern. So I'm not quite sure. You just have to tap. I mean, again, it depends on macro. Like if we're going gangbusters again and it's all season, all bets are off. But it looks like it is kind of forming that pattern in my mind. Or actually, there's one here too. So I'd be careful, right? I'd have stop losses at 0.04 if you have some in your bag. Okay.
Yeah. Another question. We gotta get into Q4 of 2024. This is when you were DMing me some insane stuff, and I was like, "You're killing me, Zen. I want to post this stuff." Because it was you. I don't know what streak you hit. It was grinding a lot of people up, and for whatever reason, you were just boom, 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 boom. I think above 80% win rate.
It was crazy. I mean, again, I think I was just trading Sol, let's see Sol in Q4. I think that was really it.
That's when it was bouncing between the daily. Yeah, if you go to the higher front, yeah, it was just bouncing between those ranges, and then it finally broke.
Yeah, like here, yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, I remember because I was talking to him like, oh, I should hit like it was it was a wedge, descending wedge, and I'm like, yeah, as soon as it breaks, I think that's what I got in, and I was just trading this range, and I think I shorted up here, and it came back down, and then yeah, this resistance level at what was this 180, I bought there and I traded that. It was insane. And obviously this huge move. But yeah, I was a huge Solana trader for
what time frames were you looking at it at the time?
15-minute and 1 hour, right? So just for entries, but then yeah, I'd go back to like a 1 hour to see exit points. Like if you can see here, I think it was up here. I think I shorted all the way up here because it was like crazy movement, and then it tanked. I'm like, okay, I'm really happy with this return in a few days, right? I thank God I got out because it went back up again, and then I just shorted again, right? So 15-minute is where is kind of where I live.
So you mentioned DCAing. Do you do DCAing on the exits as well, or do you DCA in and then 100% out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, most of the time, I get out completely. Only because in my mind there's a dollar target, right? If I hit the dollar target, I get out. Because I have spot Sol also, so I don't worry about like profit. It's funny, like I think I saw somebody today. I'm like, sometimes you have a pricing in your head, and it's like a couple dollars away, and that couple dollars is going to kill you. You know what I mean? So because it might never hit it, right? So I'm like, okay, I have my target in mind. I have a dollar in mind. I have a price target. If it hits it, if it's within 50 cents, whatever, I'll just get out, right? It might keep going up, but for the most part, for me, my technique is more about hitting an income target, because trading I use as part of my supplement to my income, versus like I don't know, increasing my overall trading bag. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So everybody's got their own method, their own kind of strategy of how to do it. I know a lot of folks who trade to increase their bag, to trade larger. I'm more like, this is a yield income strategy versus like, buy and hold Bitcoin, which I already have. That's another strategy. My spot bags are just for that.
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes I'll just take profits and put it into Bitcoin cold storage.
Yeah.
Like not touching those ever.
Right.
The other question I have is, you also do DCAing with the runner bot, don't you?
Oh yes.
Multiple
for
bottoms.
Sure. Yeah, and I use that on the 4 hour time frame. So yeah, my spot bags always, when I get an alert on these bottoms, that's when I buy. Easy. It's fire and forget.
Simple.
Right. Keep it simple. But yeah, when this cycle is over, I'll be looking for the tops. That's when right here, that's when you start taking profit and going, out of spot and into cash. But I don't think we're there yet. We're nowhere near it.
Macro wise, do you think we're done?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Bitcoin. I read today one of my newsletters. The problem with this cycle, it's different from the other cycles, is that the quantitative tightening is been prolonged, only because COVID was such a huge QE event that the cycle of tightening is taking an extra year. And we're like, because we're like, everyone's like, oh, we're in the fourth year, we're it's over. I'm like, no, it's not. If you look at it, it's got this wedge pattern of a big dip, and that's why we're going down, of quantitative tightening. But like the easing hasn't even started yet. So, or it's just started and we haven't caught up to it yet. So again, I'm a macro guy. I know fundamentals, the whole tariffs, the recession thing, and everybody's afraid of like, we're going into a global depression. I don't know. Last time I thought like, I'll give you an example, right? When the global financial crisis happened, I pulled everything out of my 401k. I thought we were going to all die. It was the end of the world. And you know what the government did? Just print boatloads of money, right? And for almost 4 years, I was convinced we would tank, right? But we didn't, So I don't know. It's like you is what do you call it? You did. I was a mid curver, and I lost a lot of money, right? So people who the I don't know if you know the meme, right? So people who are super smart were like, oh, monetary printing, fiat, no one's ever going to go bankrupt. Like markets only go up, assets only go up. Yeah, they'll buy. And then the other person is like, well, I'm not going to touch my money anymore. Like markets always go up, so I just keep my money in there, and they won. Versus me, I'm like, oh my god, we'll be in a global recession. How can you think that? Yeah, so it's crazy. So now I don't even think that. People are like, oh, tariffs are going to ruin the world. I think the Fed and the central banks have been printing tons of money, and China especially, and the EU especially. So I don't know how that money has to find a home, and it's either going to be in crypto or some other markets. Maybe not in the U.S., but like crypto isn't a U.S. Tariff export thing. So I think there are going to be pockets of strength in other assets, but no, I don't think we've topped, honestly.
So you think the tariffs will resolve, and then we'll continue on for the crazy peaks of crypto that we typically see on a 4-year cycle?
Yeah, I think so. I think again, I have to trust the global liquidity and the debt cycles. We don't have as money to pay debts, so there's going to be money printing, and all scarce assets, including crypto, will go up. That's my macro thinking level. I'm not a fundamental guy and looking at earnings, because honestly, COVID, the huge injection of liquidity, that proved everybody wrong, right? So luckily I think I bought Bitcoin during I don't know if you remember that crash. It was in March.
I remember it.
I bought Bitcoin at like, I think it hit 12,000 or some ridiculous. It was a single digit number. It was like insane.
On the COVID crash, it went down to like 3,000.
Something, yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, this is like the best buying opportunity ever, right? And
oh yeah,
a couple days later, it was back up to double digits, in the teens. I also bought Nvidia, right, at like 50. It was insane. It was like crazy.
You show your Nvidia chart, because what is it now? And it's been split and everything else.
Yeah, I bought it on my IRA, like what are the whole like TD Ameritrade. I was like, this is insane. Yeah, it's what 101 now post split.
Yeah.
Like it was insane. Yeah, I bought it pre-split at $50, right, in 2020.
I had a talk with a young engineer today who he had bought some Nvidia this week, and I said, yeah, that's the one that like seems to never die. It's like I think they said 80% of the company are millionaires at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Look at this insane chart, right?
And there's a shortage of green Lamborghinis in that city as well. Like they said, the Nvidia parking lot is full of green like Ferraris and Lambos.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it was $8 pre-split. That's where $8.62, right? So yeah, I mean, it was, and even then, they didn't have AI. I only bought it because they had really good self-driving equipment or gear, right? And I thought that was the future. Like, it was only dumb luck that they got into AI, it's like
proof of stake ended, or proof of work ended on Ethereum. And then AI hits, and it's just like,
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
they just fell into it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, another one of those, buy when there's blood on the streets, right? So,
and now ChatGPT has the Ghibli update, so NVIDIA is going to be powerhouse again, trying to fuel all the pictures.
Yeah, I mean, again, NVIDIA was the best in class, right? I mean, how you could not beat NVIDIA for self-driving software chips at all. Like it was so.
It's weird. It's always been like that though. Like AMD seemed to like never really catch up on the video card.
No, right. AMD was kind of like the copy pasta. That's the yeah, and it's always been like that. NVIDIA has always been the premium.
Because like Intel and AMD on the CPU chips, they would like rotate. One would be
Right.
better one generation, the other would be the, but it's like
Right.
NVIDIA has always just been absolutely ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, 2020 was where I did the opposite. I'm like, I'm gonna do the opposite what I did in the global financial crisis. This entire disaster is going to be a huge investment opportunity. So I just went against the grain and just went all in on a lot of stocks and tokens, especially Bitcoin.
That's cool.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, anybody guys in the chat, if you guys have specific questions, I'll read them out and we can go through it. I was going to ask is, since nobody wants to talk about it, what are your thoughts on Ethereum?
Oh man, I still have a big bag of Ethereum.
Me too.
So my hopium is that Ethereum is sufficiently decentralized, and I think since there's an ETF, it's the only one right now that exists for ETF. It's funny. It has a brand with the normie TradFi people. I think that it's kind of like that solid state protocol, even though it's expensive. So my view is that, again, I've been in TradFi world. I know for retail folks, a $30 transaction that you can instantly send money or trade is a lot, but for institutions where it's on basically one of the oldest platforms, right? Blockchains. It's the most decentralized and it's the most, let's say, impenetrable blockchain. I think as Raul Powell said once, like Ethereum is kind of like Microsoft and Windows, and Solana is like Apple, right? So businesses and banks and big institutions, I think, will have higher adoption of Ethereum versus Solana, right? And so that's my thesis on it. Of course, I have both Sol and Ethereum just in case I'm wrong, but I think it's one of those. That's why it's holding up. Like I think someone there's a whale out there that's protecting 1800 or 1700 in that time frame in that price area. I think they're accumulating, but I do think Ethereum has legs, and it's still got the largest TVL out of all the chains. I think, right? Maybe not. I don't know, but it's pretty big still. There's still a lot of coin in there, and it might be the rails for all the USDC coins, all the stable coins for USDC. So I'm like bullish on it, but I'm like not super mega bullish. I don't think the multiples will hit like 10x on it. Maybe it'll hit 10k, which is
I'd like to think it hits an all-time high this cycle. I'd like to think that because it's got an ETF.
Right. I agree. And yeah, I think it's where the institutions will live and do transactions. It won't be Solana. Solana is where retail will live and meme coins. So
yeah, it's Solana can do a lot of things way better than Ethereum, but Ethereum doesn't shut down. Your fees will go high, but your transaction will go through. So right. it's I that's a good thing. Like Microsoft versus like Apple or etc. Like it really is like that. It's an older instrument, but it tends to work.
It's solid state. It's highly adopted, right? And a lot of people are more comfortable moving $1 million transactions and money in Ethereum than Solana. I don't know. It's to your point. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 90s and everybody used Excel and PCs and Lotus. It's just one of those things. Like everybody thought like Lotus is such a piece of shit. Like, what are you using now? I'm like, well, that's what businesses use. We can't use Apple, right? So it goes to adoption, right? What are the traditional institutions going to adopt, right? Is it Solana or is it Ethereum? Right now, I'm seeing Ethereum, right? Aave is huge on Ethereum. That's why I think if you look at what's moving, CRV, Curve, Aave, those are all classic Ethereum protocols, right?
Keep up those trends.
And so that's where I think big money is going to go, and that's going to be 80% of every dollar when we finally get institutional investors in here, more so. So, yeah, to your point, Ethereum as a protocol, I think is is bullish, but like the financial rails and DeFi, like the big ones like Curve and Aave, they're getting a lot more attention from big money traditional institutions.
That's a good take.
Yeah.
One of the guys on YouTube, HD XRP, asks, "What's your BCC price target for later this year?"
BCC? What's it,
BTC, Bitcoin.
Oh, Bitcoin.
targets.
Oh, my price target? Oh, let's see. Let me look at it.
You gotta call the top like you called Axie. Within 5%.
Well, no. For this cycle, I think we'll hit, the range. I think in like massive euphoria, will probably be around 150 to 175. That would probably be the cycle top. In my mind.
I think we'll hit the Mayer multiple at those numbers too, as long as it's not like December.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that. That's not a big.
It's 100%.
It's 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's 100% return. I think that's might be a good cycle top. Now, mind you, we could wake into 250 for like a couple of days. Is what I'm thinking. The crazy shit when everybody goes nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would probably start selling around 150. Anything north of 150, start trimming it and get some lifestyle chips back and put it into cash and wait for the just follow rainbow trend. Just look for the rainbows.
There you go.
Right there. I mean, you call the top here, right? That was perfect around 100, right? So
I never look at weeklies, but there it is.
You got a double confluence on the weekly, right? The rainbow and the runner bot saying like, get the hell out. I should have shorted. But yeah, I mean, you go.
That's one thing. I hate shorting, and some people are really good at it, but it's usually like you guys who could do low time frame and actually have like the fortitude to get out. Because I've seen so many people try to short like meme coins, and I was like, you don't know how dumb this can get. Like, like this. Then we see what was like Peanut. Peanut got into the top 50.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, like I'm pretty sure it was top 50, but it's just like there's all these legitimate projects, like serious teams behind him, and then like funny pictures go top 50 market cap.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, how do I explain this to like institutional investors that like, oh no, the squirrel got killed. And
there were so many bodies on people trying to short Axie at 20, at 50, at 75, at 100. Like everybody lost. They were like, this can't go any higher.
I remember I remember that part of the cycle. Like I didn't know anything about DeFi game or anything about like Web3 gaming and crypto, but I remember like Stacks and Crypto ISO were talking about it. And when they started talking about it on Spaces, like my whole feed got destroyed by like Axie stuff. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but this is like one of the things I'm hearing about. And then it was like Jewel was the other one. And it just got crazy wild. But it was at that point where you're saying like the onboarding of new users was like exponential as could be.
Right.
And didn't like the game, which one of them was like the barrier to entry to even play the game became like over $500? Was it Axie?
It was Axie, yeah.
Yeah.
You had to play the game. Some of the Axie would cost like thousands of dollars. Insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, shorting is super dangerous on high time frames.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, you're in, it's quantitative tightening, the death cycle is over. And I mean, it's really easy to short and make a ton of money short term, but I wouldn't hold a short more than a month. Because that's nuts. That's nuts. Yeah.
The other one, Matt the Vulture from YouTube is asking, do you have any Axie type plays for this cycle? So you have any 3,500% plays coming up you want to tell us about?
No. So actually Hyperliquid, I got a huge airdrop from Hyperliquid. I think Hyperliquid is a top tier.
So taxes are due soon. So alleged airdrop.
Yes, correct. Right. Well, you know what they did was really smart. I don't know if you got an airdrop too, Runner. Their airdrop when they did it was at 0.002 cents, because they opened the pricing, right? And so my airdrop, quote unquote, airdrop income was whatever the amount times 0.002 cents. So that's my cost basis. Now, if I hold it for a year, longer than a year, it's, long-term capital gains. But if you look at Hype, if you guys use Hyperliquid, it's crazy how much I use it every day. And I'm like, wait a minute, I use this thing every day. It's great. It's a great protocol. I don't think it's going to be 35. I think it'll probably hit 80. When all is said and done, 80 to 100. 100 when it's complete euphoria. But right now, I can tell you, I don't see anything actually game changing just yet. Only because I think the narratives this entire season that we've had have been retail driven, right? Nothing for me, it has to be industry disruptive, right? Hype is a DEX, so it's not the valuations won't be as high as an actually something new. But yeah, I'm still looking for the next Axie, and right now, I don't see anything out there that's worth a damn, honestly, to bet the farm on. There's a lot of L2s but again, if you just keep that in mind, is this the first thing? Is this the only thing? Is it the best thing? Right? Is it the best thing? But right now, RWAs, meme coins, AI, I think that's overplayed. Unless there's going to be a new version of AI that does something completely different and replace stuff. I don't know.
I'll say this: the meme. So we grinded for a very long time in Q4, and then we had a meme coin run, which I didn't see that coming. Because usually I'd figure that'd be after the high caps roll.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That exactly. I didn't see that coming either.
And then
that's kind of a cycle thing.
Oh yeah, right? Peanut, all these other things. They were gonna put whiff on the sphere in Las Vegas. All this stuff got super crazy, and it sustained for more than a week. Because that's the thing. Most of these things, people will try to get me to jump on board and stuff like that, and I was like, hey, the AI agents thing. Because I saw that get gigantic, and people were trying to get me to integrate code and stuff too. I was like, I appreciate the offer and stuff, but if people are still talking about this in 4 weeks, I'll entertain it. And then sure enough, AI agents died in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And
yeah, to your point, I think it's the same people, right? The same traders, the same money that just gets rinsed and moved somewhere. The game changing thing of any token is go back to Axie again as an analogy, right? How many users are being onboarded, right? And are these users new and organic, or are they just the same people who came from Mantle or from Binance or from pick your L2, right? Because it's all the same people. That we need something that brings in normies, and I don't see that yet. Well, at least not in my kind of research.
I don't. I mean, in 2025, I haven't seen much either. Poly market wasn't a new thing, but it really came to its own in the past 12 months, especially with the election. But meme coins, those played out. AI agents. Then before that, it was AI tokens, render and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. And then the half life is very short. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know what the next one will be. I thought, and the other thing is, I think may or may not be a thing is now that we have legit ETF instruments, I think the narratives may become more boring because real money is going to be just basically focusing more on Bitcoin and then slightly more on a little less, but the other focus would be Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, tokenization of every asset in the TradFi, I think, is going to be a big narrative. I don't know, but I don't know how we would make money off of it. You know what I mean? It's kind of
it's killed volatility, in my opinion. The news of it pumped us up, but if you notice, we don't have Ethereum or Bitcoin moves on the weekends anymore. It has to be during trading hours.
Yep. Yeah. Because retail's not here, right? Usually the reason why we had moves because retail would trade on the weekends. It was an easy, Saturday, run up. I remember that pattern. Every Saturday, we'd have a mini bull run in tokens, and sure enough, you could just sell into it. Because I don't think retail's here yet. I think they're still hurting, or they got hurt by meme coins and that money went away, or they lost it all to the cabal. So,
Yeah.
yeah, your honest question is I'm always on the lookout. But what I'm looking out for is like super disruptive, industry destroying tokens, right? And that's why Hype gets attacked all the time, because Binance and those guys hate it. I really think Binance or Bybit were behind a lot of the Hyperliquid attacks and exploits on their vaults, because they're making more money than they are. So it's a compliment, but yeah. And even the other thing too with my trading and investing is there's a lot of VCs that are shilling it. So they've got the ear of pretty much every institution to say, yeah, Hyperliquid is a decentralized, perp exchange that is, really successful. So one of the long-term investment thesis or strategies I have is like, who's actually in it and shilling it, because they have the ear of the big money. And you just kind of, I'm the little barnacle on a whale, just getting on the wave. That was the thing with Axie too, is that Delphi Digital was shilling Axie Infinity as this new thing, and they were basically the one and only research house for crypto on Wall Street, and everybody bought Axie because they were recommending it. So be careful of the coins that were like hyped up by calls or CT folks, and only them, because they don't have legs. Honestly, you look for research papers and you look for research houses that shill these tokens. I think that's where, yeah, I think Hyperliquid does have an 8x, 800%, not bad from where it's at right now. So that's my big bet for now. But I'm always looking. So come back to me in about 6 months and see if there's anything new.
Yeah, for sure. I hope I'm still betting, and not betting, but I'm still rooting, and I guess betting as well, for like a blue chip DeFi. I still think that makes sense, but again, I also like the idea of privacy coins. But back to your point, little secret: if you see anybody bullish on Zcash, they're not a coal. So, like you said, all those guys like shilling random tickers all of a sudden. It's like,
yeah, that's right.
You wouldn't believe the DMs I get to like promote stuff, and I just deny them all, and it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's like, hey, do you want to be part of this project? Blah, blah, blah. We'll pay you this much per tweet. And it's like, dude, this is not cool. Yeah. But then you start seeing it, like all these like really popular, huge accounts talking about the same token and synchronization. It's like, okay, yeah, you guys are TPing right now while you promote it.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. I found Oxy before all these other influencers, started shilling it, because they were loading up way after I loaded up. But yeah, the thing is with markets is, if you're in it every day and you do your research and you keep your head down, you will have alpha way before everybody else, right? Yeah. So it just takes time and effort.
That's a really hard, and like your 3 steps, like, is it the only, is it the best, is it rare, and stuff like that. It's like, try applying that to meme coins.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's why every one of them is going to be a bad investment. It's just, yeah, right. I mean, outside of Doge, I mean, I think I bought Doge in 2020. I should have kept it, but I didn't just, but it's, again, it doesn't compute in my brain like meme coins have value. I mean, again, there's attention. But yeah, if I kept my whatever gazillion Doge that I had for like $50, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
I'd have an island somewhere. I don't know, but it's insane, right? You never know.
That's true though, and it's just like that's the thing. Is like, I hate saying this because it's like it's these words shouldn't be in the same sentence. They're just like, yeah, all these meme coins. I'm still bullish on blue chip meme coins. Give me some Doge, give me some SHIB, and it's like these never run, and I just like, ah, damn it. I really like SHIB for like rainbow trading because it's really consistent with the paint. But man, when it's dead, it's dead. Like there's no when it's no volatility, it's like Litecoin.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Let me back you up to Axie Infinity days when you called the top. When you decided to retire or quit your day job, what was that experience like? Or when did you realize like, hey, I can comfortably exit here and actually quit working like 9 to 5? Because that's a hard thing to do and like realize like, hey, I made it, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's not easy. Your mind has to shift. So when, I remember when it actually hit like 151 and I sold like 80% of my position and I had all this freaking money and I was just like, holy shit, I'm at the top of the mountain. Now what do I do? Right. And so, but your life gets more complicated because now you've got to think about, okay, to your point, I wanted to talk about this. So I read, again, in order to build wealth, you have to concentrate your bets, right? In order to preserve it, you have to diversify. So the first thing I did was diversify, right? Out of like, I got cash, which is great. I was in the USDC, but part of what, when you to your point, how can I quit, right? But still have my lifestyle, right? And so I bought property, right? So take it out of crypto. I bought property. I took some of it out and gave it to managers, right? Like people who like don't have my degenerate strategy, right? Like the barbell approach, right? So I diversified to protect it so that I would be protected from myself, runner, right? Because I'd be like, hey, yeah, let's put it in Luna and get 15%. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I gotta get out. So and it's some people it's really hard, right? Because they're like more is more. Right. And to your point,
I'm hot. The table's hot. I'm going to turn this into $1 billion.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm the best trader ever.
For a moment, I had that. I was like, oh my God, it's this much amount. Like, why not, 9 figures, 10 figures, right? And like, what am I doing? Right. Yeah. Like, it's because then it becomes just a video game you want to win and not like real life. Right. And so to your point, yeah, it was a wake up call, but it was also the drive for me to never work for somebody else overcame my either greed or dreams of grandeur, right? This delusion of grandeur. So I'm like, I'm gonna follow my mantra, diversify to protect it, and that's what I did. So I've got money in all different types of assets, much less risky than crypto. Still doing crypto because it's fun. It keeps me busy. But that was probably the best decision I ever made, was to just get out, put it in something so illiquid, but will still go up in value, but I can get, rental income from it, right? I can, start a new business from it that's traditional, in order to safeguard my own, my from myself.
Honestly. No, it's not a joke. I know quite a few people, unfortunately, that have burned out 7 or 8 figure runs down to 0. Yeah. And
really, that's insane. Yeah.
They become infinite, and like they think they're invincible. And like that's what I try to tell people too, is like, there's a history of me with like quantitative trading. Like I build tools, I build bots and stuff like that, and I integrate a bunch of stuff in like Rainbow Trades is there, 10,000 lines code. There's bot elements in it as well. And like one of the biggest things I found out in bot trading is you need to be invincible. I implemented an algorithm back in like 2017 that was absolutely killing it on Binance. To the point where like I was a younger, poor engineer in the oil field, and like I think I had $30,000 on an automated bot account, and my back testing was killing it. And I was like, the only thing that can stop me is a black swan event. And I was like, I'm gonna let it ride. And we had a black swan event 1 month later, and I literally saw FTX go down, Binance go down, Coinbase go down, Kraken go down. And I could only sit there and try to get numbers to update, but I couldn't log in to have the bot like dump its positions. And I think I lost like over $20,000 in an hour. And I was just trying to log into Binance and I couldn't. And like from there on, like I took that big ass scar and tried to implement a bunch of stuff. And this is before like Rainbow Trades was a thing. And like implemented that into tools and also like trading cycles and like protecting yourself. Because your funds need to be protected from you. They need to be protected from like nature, and they need to be protected from like hackers, like malicious things. Your house can burn. Your house can burn down. Your private keys can die. Like some people have it in a safe, and that safe can melt like in a real fire.
Right.
Hackers can get your Coinbase accounts. Hackers can get a lot of stuff. That's like kind of the malicious side. And then you're also your own worst enemy. Like when your mind's not right, you can do some degen shit and drop 8 figures in a single trade.
Yeah.
Like you could do 10,000% up, but there's only 100% loss that you can take. Like, you know, and that can wipe it out. And so like I try to tell people, like, if you've got cold storage, duplicate your cold storages, get some best friends, have them to like hold some stuff and maybe not give them the PIN numbers. I mean, it's the same thing too. Like you're looking out for your family. I'm looking out for my family. I could get in a car wreck tomorrow. And like,
Absolutely.
like, you know, does your wife or does your mom who lives the state over know how to open up that ledger or other type of cold storage? Like that's a thing there.
Yeah. To your point, I have backup friends. To your point, like they're, you know, in case of emergency, talk to this person.
Yeah, for sure. And then like Coinbase can technically go down, Kraken can go down. We saw FTX go down, and you know, lucky to be able to see that one coming, and we got some people out. But like, you know, you can protect it from yourself too. And like you said, it's like you want to get like crypto exposure and not worry about those things. You can go into more like protected institutions like Fidelity and like get crypto exposure. Real estate's another one, like you said, like diversifying to that. And then I think last stream I was covering like there are multiple options that you can get FDIC insured 4 to 5% returns on cash. And as long as you got like the stones, like, hey, this market's not for me, tariffs or whatever, crypto's way up, I'm going to start taking some TPs. You get a few $100,000 on 4%. You know, on a bad day, you can keep your apartment lights on. You can keep, you know, ramen on the table for your family and stuff like that. So even if you don't like fully make it in the cycle, you can still get like safety nets. Because, man, we talk trading all the time, right? But there's a lot of people that have like lost out to hacks. There's a lot of people that have lost out to exchanges going down or like malicious things. And I consider that a trade. Like you walked in, like I hated FTX because it was tainted and like the bots I had were like telling me something was up because they would trade perfectly on Binance and Kraken, but they wouldn't trade on FTX. And I was like, something's up, and had other friends confirm it. But definitely like watch out, diversify, because if you don't, you can cost yourself a cycle, maybe 2 cycles. So it's good to take profit and also like realize, you mentioned it earlier, long-term capital gains versus short-term, like that'll bite hard too. Yeah.
Again, I got hacked, Runner, like in 2020, right before Axie. You know, I didn't know, I'm not a programmer. I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I accepted. Remember when MetaMask had unlimited access? You would say, hey, I want to like, you know, deposit or submit this, you know, liquidity provider.
Yes.
And most protocols are like, yeah, read only. I accepted a contract that had full cred to my wallet. Oof. Right. And the next day I'm like, where'd my money go? What the fuck? Right. And then my programmer was like, oh, did you read the contract? I'm like, why would I read the fucking contract? I'm like, normie, dude. Like, what the hell is this crap? Yeah. Oh, well, in the code, it had this. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Right. And so, yeah, to your point, like that was my lesson. That was the trade. Right. To pay attention, to not like degen into like stupid shit, like, you know, that hasn't been vetted. It's like some weird esoteric site. It looks janky. Like, yeah, that's when I was like, okay, not every DeFi protocol is legit, right? You're accepting contracts willy-nilly, and that's why MetaMask changed their way of accepting contracts. Like you can only get a certain amount now, right? Like if you're trading $500, the maximum amount that any contract can get from you is $500, right? Back then it was like, yeah, let Uniswap have full access to my USDC, no matter how much, you know. And I couldn't believe like this is what I was doing, right? But that's the tuition.
That's the same thing. You're used to clicking on all the disclaimer stuff or like installing anything from like Apple or Microsoft. And a lawyer reviewed. It's good. That's it's happened this week. It was, I think, a $5 million Ethereum hack. And the Ethereum hacker went to the wrong Tornado Cash website and he got his stolen funds hacked by another hacker. It's just like, man, you figured he'd. And that's the thing is like some of these people will do stuff like that. You're just like, you didn't really just want to try that with like $100,000. Like,
right. Exactly. Like you would want to test it a little bit. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
the funniest thing is the XRP institution, people track their wallets and they will send like $20 of XRP and then send 10 million. Like they do check it. I just think that's fantastic.
It's nuts. Yeah, you get it in 5 seconds too. It's just hilarious.
One thing I did want to back up to is when you tried out like Rainbow Trends for like the first time, what did you like? Was there any like learning curve or stuff that helped you figure it out? Because that's one of the things I have a hard time trying to teach people is like your eyes have to sync to it and you have to figure out like what works for you. Because some people, it's weird. It's like some people they'll onboard. They will never ask me a question. They're good to go and they're trading like huge bags. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? There's other ones that like I have to help give them some guidance as well as like the OGs in the Discord. Like, oh yeah, try this, you know, how to make it work for them.
Let me try to. Well, I didn't use Molly pivots when I first tried. I just used the runner bot and the main indicator. To me, it was fairly straightforward because colors. And obviously I read your tutorial on site about the colors and what they mean. But honestly, full disclosure, I was just like, let me just test out the pivots and see if it works. And that's really what it did. I just basically like just blindly followed the 15-minute pivots and just tested it out. Kind of like, trade like $1,000, and just basically be a bot, right? And just like buy here, sell here, buy here. And I'm like, that's it. That's what I did. And everything else is pretty straightforward. I didn't know about these other tools like the split volume, because I thought this was already genius up here. Because I already knew how to read volume just by regularly and on balance volume too. But the real test was how just ridiculously predictable like all this was. Like, oh, if you buy here at the bottom and there's green and you sell up here, I might miss this other move, but like profit is profit, runner. Like this is, I mean, like how do you not like, I don't know. Like this is pretty straightforward. Like the dummy can do it. I could teach my kid to do it if they wanted to. Like, hey man, just buy at the green, sell at this other line, buy at the green, sell at this other line, and you make money. Or short. I mean, I think what I did was like buy here. Oh, it's time to short, and then buy here again, So there wasn't really, but then again, I've got, before I used, your tool, I had 20 plus years of trading experience. So a lot of it was pretty straightforward for me. For a new person, it might be overwhelming because, they need to know liquidation levels. They need to know candlestick charts. They need to know what pivot means and volume and whether to read and, there's divergence. There's a lot of things that I already knew that would just kind of fell into place that this tool was already kind of, I would say, amplifying, right, and making it clear. But the colors are great. I mean, that makes it easy. I mean, it's more visually engaging than like the red and the green candlesticks.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a good way to put it.
I do, again, the runner bot was super simple for me to use. I'm like, oh, okay, this is bottom. And it also taught me like, okay, I get what the algorithm is trying to do. So, I think the runner bot is like for super simple stuff for me. Like, it's not that hard to look at a 15-minute. I'm like, oh, this is, bottom signaling. I don't even have to pay attention to lines. Like, this is exactly where I need to buy. And the red is when I need to sell. So not much of a learning curve for me, unfortunately.
That's cool. I have a client who's been with me, one of my first clients ever, and he literally just trades the pivots. Like that's the only out of the entire suite. That's all he uses. I think that and split volume.
Yeah.
The origin of that one was Doppel. Doppel asked me if I could make pivots that would line up with order blocks because we were studying a bunch of trader main stuff, and I'd watch all these trader main tutorials, and I was like, when he does it, I can understand how he does order blocks. But when I do it by myself, I can't see order blocks. So I was like, Doppel was like, can you try to automate it? And I was like, let me try. And I think I spent like 2 weeks on it and ended up making like 2 algorithms that work together. One paints red, one paints green. And I spent forever tuning them. And then that tune we got out of it, that's been the revision it's been since day one. Like, we have not touched this thing. And it's shocking because sometimes it'll catch something like to the cent. And why the whales come back and touch them perfectly, like, blows my mind.
Like this right here, right? Exactly. Yeah. Right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's industrial strength, man. That's why I'm like, don't fix it. It's not broken for sure. Like, so it can't be any simpler than that. Now, I can say a lot of people, and that's the thing, right? So if you don't trade Bitcoin or any large, major, it might not work for like meme coins. I don't know. Like, they're just a little bit more erratic to me.
Yeah, especially because a lot of them are in price discovery.
Yeah, right. So I can't do that. Like, that's, but that's my point, is not to generate 10,000 extra turns. My point is just to like make some income. And I can do that easily with pivots and the majors.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Man, this is a lot. I'm gonna have to cut this up into a bunch of clips.
Okay, man.
Is there any last things you want to share, or things as a seasoned trader who's been trading through a ridiculous market?
Yeah, you know what I noticed? There's another method that I use called three rise and three lows. So if you notice, it's a commodity trading strategy. If Bitcoin, for all intents and purposes, is a commodity, I've noticed, like, I just noticed it because it's on a 15-minute. A lot of chart patterns and a lot of MMs follow this three rise, three low pattern. So if you look at the beginning of this downward path, if I short it up here, right? If I'm like, okay, look at it, it's kind of like, lower highs are forming. Here, this is kind of a good candidate. So, if it doesn't break this, it's a good short. And if you notice the move of the pricing completes after three lows. So if you can split this first downtrend right here, is the first downtrend. That's number one, and then it goes up, and then the second downtrend, that's number two, and then it goes up, and then there's the third downtrend. That's why it's funny how where you spotted the bottom, your runner bot is, but in commodity trading terms, those are three lower movements, which then resets, right? The MM resets their movement, and then it goes. And then the first rise, and it goes three again, right? This one is a kind of an anomaly, but I would have taken profit on this third rise, because you look at here, the rainbow trends, perfectly, calls out the three rise pattern, right? And so now the first, if you look at it again, this is the first drop, this is the second drop. There's probably going to be a third drop to 80 again, or 78 here, maybe. But like, if the pattern applies, but like you can see it. There's a lot of information out there about this pattern that MMs market makers use to like I don't know why they do it, but it's a pattern that you can see.
I personally think it's liquidity testing. I think they're driving to see if they're driving down, they're waiting to see if the bulls bite. Is right. How I kind of view it.
But it's always three, though. That's what I don't understand. Like, there's, that's what this method calls for. I'm like, oh, we're in the second drop level. Look for the third one. And I'm like, really? Is it really that simple? I don't know. Right?
Nexus looks for those, and so does Mally. Mally does Mally sweeps. Mally just texted. He said, throw the Mally pivots on the 15-minute.
Okay. Yeah. I'll put it on. Did I lose it?
Very bottom one, yeah.
That's 15-minute. Yeah, so here's the three rises, right? 1, 2, 3, right? And then, yeah, the pivot, one of the pivots says you should probably sell up here, which, you should have. You would have missed this run, but like, yeah, you would have saved yourself this downturn, right? And then here, right? The three drops, first one, second, the first one, the second one, and then the third one. But there's always, a bump up, but like, you could see those clearly, right? Probably on a daily, you could see it. But yeah, you could see the liquidation levels. To your point, you were testing the first liquidation level, the second one, and then the third one. And then up here, you can see liquidation number 3. But 1, 2, 3. And I don't know why. It's always this three pattern. Maybe it's some Fibonacci shit. I have no idea.
We see that on the high time frame too, is when we're talking about like Wyckoff accumulation. You'll get a death wick, and then you'll get like 3 bounces, and you'll see the colors rotate and fade.
Yeah, it's always 3s. Everything happens in 3s. It's weird, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's definitely a strategy to if you want to take a longer swing trade. I'm like, oh, this is the first rise. I'll and this is why I like that kind of that methodology. When it goes up, right, it hits some kind of this weird congested area here where there's some resistance. You wait for the retest, but it has to make a higher a lower high or a higher low. Here, this would be a good entry, and then you wait for the second two, right, to kind of make it a safer trade, right? The next two rises, right? Same thing with a short. You want to make sure the short occurs, right? Or the downtrend starts to confirm, and then it comes up here, and then it loses it, and then you know that it's on a downward trend, and you have 2 other lower lows coming. So that's how a lot of commodity traders work. Is they wait for this break retest of a lower high or a higher low, depending on the trend up. But Bitcoin followed that perfectly. Three lowers, 3 higher, right, and then reset in this huge range between 89 and 80.
So cool.
That's it. That's my other thing that I don't think it's in here, but maybe to your point, maybe the Molly pivots has it. It's just, it'd be cool to be like, yeah, this is the second rise, or this is the second lower movement. It might be something. There's always something to code, right, Ron? There's always something. There's always
Absolutely.
an idea. All right.
Well, man, thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have to have you on in the future for some time, especially if we get on a super hot streak. But with everyone here, I'm going to say thanks again to Zen, and we're going to go head over to the Rainbow Trends Discord. And if you need the link, it's in my bio, as well as the main website. You can click at the top to join the Discord community. But we're going to turn the recordings off and go hang out in the Rainbow Trends Discord. And if any of you guys want to do some open mics, ask Zen some questions, or myself, we'll be there in probably like 5 minutes and hang out for our weekly roundtable. But again, thanks for everybody calling in, and thanks again, Zen.
Thank you, Runner. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Good night, all.
Bye.